Welcome back to the Fried Egg Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Johnson. I'm excited. We delayed the release of this just to chat about the Ryder Cup. The U.S. team made their captain's picks today, so we wanted to chat after that. I'm excited to have Gabby Herzig on. She is a great writer at The Athletic and New York Times. You can read all of her stuff there. She reports and has been on the road a ton this year and reports thoroughly and wonderfully on professional golf, among many other things. So Gabby's going to join to talk about the Ryder Cup selections and also recap the PGA Tour season. She was one of the few national reporters on the ground at Eastlake and can give some perspective on the Tommy Fleetwood win. So we'll talk Ryder Cup picks and Ryder Cup, the U.S. team, and then we'll talk about the PGA Tour season as a whole. The Keegan Bradley made the picks this morning. The big news is he did not pick himself. I think that was the big story going into it. His captain picks are 6 captains picks are Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Sam Burns, Cameron Young, and what's the last one here? And Patrick Cantlay. How could I forget Patrick Cantlay? No hat, Pat. So he is that is the picks, and we'll break down that whole kind of situation. It is a fascinating situation for the American team. Probably not exactly what they envisioned when they selected Keegan, but something they probably should have envisioned when they selected Keegan. So we'll get to Gabby in a second, but first, let's talk about our partner, Groove It Brush. Groove It Brush, listen, one of the things, if you want to make a Ryder Cup team, you got to have clean grooves. You got to play your best golf. One of the things I always am amazed by if I play a round of golf with a caddy, I look at my clubs after. I'm like, God, why aren't my clubs always this clean? Well, there is a way to keep your clubs that clean. It's to use the Groove It brush. They are the top rated golf brushes on the market. You see this up and down the range on tour. A lot of guys loop it to their belt and use it, after every shot just to get that predictability. It's the best way to get predictability on your golf shots. So check it out. Use the promo code Fried Egg, no spaces, for 15% off any purchase in July at grooveitbrush.com. That's grooveitbrush.com. Use the promo code Fried Egg for 15% off. Now, let's get to Gabby Herzig on the PGA Tour season and Ryder Cup picks, the American team Ryder Cup picks. All right, we held off on this podcast because of the Ryder Cup picks. Gabby, I'm excited to have you on. We'll get into the Ryder Cup and kind of the end of the PGA Tour season here. But you're a New Yorker. Are you ready for the Ryder Cup to come in a couple weeks to New York City, to your city?
Andy, thank you very much for having me. I honestly don't know if anyone is ready, but I'm slowly but surely preparing myself for potential disaster, but also probably the coolest in-person scene that I will ever lay eyes on in golf. So we've got a mixture of the two boiling at the moment.
I know everybody wants to hear about my travel planning. I'm trying to lay out the week. I haven't nailed down exactly what I'm doing, but I think what I'm going to center on, and I'm curious if you think this is the right logistical move, is that early week, spend it in the city and do the trek back and forth, because that early week of a Ryder Cup kind of could drag. And then later in the week, move out onto the island and closer to Bethpage. Do you think that's the play?
I mean, that definitely sounds like the play, but maybe you just want to be on Long Island the entire time. That LIRR, Penn Station or Grand Central, whichever one you want to choose, that commute is going to be interesting. I'm really curious how efficient it's going to be for these fans coming from Manhattan. But from my apartment, for example, it's at least one subway, a long train ride, and a shuttle. And that can add up, Andy. So I don't know where you'll be staying in Manhattan, but you might be signing yourself up for a lot of time on public transportation.
That we were thinking about just setting PJ up, the Long Island boy, at a LIR stop and just having him sign autographs or something there.
I think that's a perfect idea, actually.
All right, so let's get to the big news here. Keegan Bradley, obviously this was a story. I think like once the Open ended, this was the story of the golf season. Once we got through the majors, was will Keegan Bradley put himself on the team? It became evident that he was not going to play himself into an automatic spot. Obviously, was the biggest snub from the last Ryder Cup, and kind of had the snub replayed through full swing, where they showed the call. He won the Travelers. It seemed like after the Travelers, he was a lock. Keegan Bradley does not pick himself for the team. Are you surprised by this?
I was shocked, Andy. I really thought that he was going to do it, not only because of that Travelers Championship win where he shifted that narrative, and that was all his decision. Like immediately after winning the tournament, gets asked about the Ryder Cup and basically, quote unquote, says this changes things. And that's what made this frenzy what it was these past, however many weeks. Like he definitely did that to himself. But I really thought the way that he was speaking to us and the way that he performed at the Tour Championship, there were so many signs that he was going to do it. He told, like in a scrum with the media on Saturday at the Tour Championship, he said, I consider myself one of the best players in the world. He went out there and shot 63. He was fist pumping, walking in putts. Like I just felt the playing captain energy. And on top of that, I didn't even realize this before getting to Eastlake, but Arnold Palmer was playing captain in the 1963 Ryder Cup at Eastlake. And Keegan was talking about being in the captain's room and seeing Arnie's old bag and his clubs from that week. And it felt like the stars were aligning for this to actually happen. That being said, I never thought it was going to be a good idea. So I'm pleasantly surprised with him deciding to take a step back. But I really thought that's what we were going to get, is that electric, maybe potentially first tee appearance in the afternoon from Captain Keegs, like storming out there and just making the crowd go nuts. It would have been incredible to see, but I'm not super. I'm surprised that it happened this way, but I'm glad that he decided to make this decision.
For us in the content game, him not playing is definitely like a loss.
Yeah, for sure.
While you were talking, I agree completely. If you watch that Saturday telecast from Eastlake, you were on the ground. It felt like, oh God, this guy is playing on the team, and he played himself into the second to last group. And then he had a bad day. He shot even par on a soft golf course. And while you were talking, something that popped in my mind is like, if he shoots 68. So he finished seventh, T7 at 13 under. If he shoots 68, 2 under, and I think he hit one in the water on, what was it, on 15?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
It's like, something that boils down to something that small. But if he shoots 68, he finishes T2.
Could that have changed things?
I don't think he's off the team.
No. Well, imagine if he won. This is very much in the cards. That's why, he kept saying, I know that he has the PR answers ready to go, but he kept saying, I don't know, this is going to be the hardest decision of my life. And then today he was answering questions, basically alluding to the fact that he never wanted to be more than just the captain this whole time. And it was always that he was going to stay in that captain's role and not entertain the thought. But I don't buy it, to be honest with you. Like if I had to guess, there were moments during the Tour Championship where he was right on the edge.
It absolutely, because the discourse had changed so much from I have to qualify on points is what he effectively said at the beginning of his captaincy. What do you make about the PGA's, and I think like I'm not sure if you agree or disagree with this, but to me, if you were laying out who would be among the best 12 players to be on the Ryder Cup team, I think Keegan Bradley's consistency makes him one of the best 12 players. He has been, like, for really the last 4 years, a really solid top flight PGA Tour player, and one that you kind of know what you're getting week in, week out. That's, like, I think a very important aspect of a Ryder Cup player is dependability, consistency. I think he would be one of the 12 best players on the team, but he was, do you think this was a flawed decision from the PGA of making Bradley the captain and putting this situation where you might not have your best 12 players?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we have to start thinking about now. I mean, also just thinking if Keegan was not the captain, one of the major storylines around Keegan as a captain's pick would 100% be his history with the event and the passion around it, the suitcase that he hasn't opened in however many years. There would be so many reasons to include a guy like that on the team.
The St. John's connection.
Connection. People were milking that even with Goddard and the Rutgers connection. But yeah, this all kind of goes back to that day, which I reported on a little bit last year when the decision was announced to make Keegan the captain, which it appears as though how this happened is, there was this kind of like Ryder Cup committee formed to find the next captain. Spieth was on it, and JT was on it, John Wood was on it, like some PGA of America leadership, and Seth Waugh, who was the outgoing PGA of America CEO. And according to the people I spoke to about that meeting, Seth Waugh basically came in there with a list of like pretty out there names of who could be the next Ryder Cup captain. On that list included Ricky Fowler, Kevin Kisner, and Keegan was one of them. And apparently, when he read off Keegan's name, the whole room kind of just stopped in its tracks. And they were like, oh, wow, like, why didn't we think of this sooner? And the whole point of that meeting in the first place was to kind of move on from the task force generation, getting these captaincies. But it looks like the decision to go with someone younger backfired a little bit because it made it seem like it was more of a move to generate buzz and create excitement around the event of this potential playing captain situation rather than what might be best for the US team's success in the actual event. So that's where my head goes immediately.
And part of this is that it felt like they were really, really trying to get Tiger. Tiger was the first choice, and it almost was like they had centered on that. And then, the fallout of that was like
contingency plan. Yes.
Yeah. The fallout also was like after it was like looking at, the Stricker Furyk, this like kind of cabal of who's been the captain for the last X number. Davis Love would be in there too, of this generation. Like, do we go down the list? And then it ends up with this. I guess, like, when I think about this situation, Keegan, to me, not playing was the route of like removing blame from yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It seems like the safest PR route. Do you think there is a scenario where you could say he's not, if the Ryder Cup doesn't go well for the US team, he's not blameless if they fail?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, what if Ben Griffin goes out there and can't hit the ball? He
might overdose on creatine.
He might do that too. Can you overdose on creatine?
I believe that's
saw,
not
the
true.
Bros in the comments being like, "This is impossible." So I don't know, but yeah, there's easily a scenario. I mean, I can only really see it being possible. It like no one will blink an eye if they go on to win. This is only in an extreme scenario, which is already an extreme scenario for the US to go and lose a home Ryder Cup, especially at a place like Bethpage Black. So do I think that's ever going to be part of the conversation? Not necessarily, but it is an interesting thought experiment to, think about like picking him as the captain in the first place and it potentially being detrimental to what happens to the US team in this Ryder Cup.
If they win, he has set himself up in a Luke Donald type situation where the commentary, the discourse will be around like, look at the selflessness of this. Like you could already write the story. You could write the story and file it for the second the winning putt is made. If it's like all centered around, look at this guy, he took the captaincy serious. And like I think like what's the Ryder Cup's probably the most overanalyzed sporting event in golf, and really it comes down to like do to a certain extent do the guys hit the shots, which like part of me is I think like the captaincy, I know there's a lot of like logistical work that goes into this, but I think this whole thing is like, at the end of the day, it's about players hitting shots and playing good golf. And, you have to outplay the other team. And I think this year's probably about as level of playing field as we've seen in a Ryder Cup, where you could look at either side and make the case of who has the better team, And I think like what this comes down to is putting yourself in a position to have the players hitting, the best players, playing their best. And I don't think like Keegan Bradley, whether he played or not played, is going to influence if JJ Spawn plays well in his first Ryder Cup.
Yeah, it's a good and it's a dangerous way to think about things, because then it's like, why does any of this Ryder Cup discourse even matter? Like we just, they just need to go out and play well. And then you hear a guy like Justin Thomas speaking about how, the only reason why they lost the cup in Rome is because no one played well. And it just kind of like erases all the drama involved in these picks. But I also wanted to go back to what you said about the captain. And I don't think we'll ever really be able to tell how important the captaincy is, because, like you said, the winning team is usually just the one that plays the best golf. But I do think there might not be as many responsibilities for the captain as people make it out to be, but there is that pressure. And I feel like that definitely has an impact on the team as a whole. And if the captain is feeling the pressure in a negative way, it can easily translate to the vibe of the team room and how these players are feeling. Like I would guess 1000% that that's a little bit of what happened in Rome with people questioning Zach Johnson's decision making and, abiding by the boys club and all of the things all the missteps that he made that week in comparison to a Luke Donald who stepped into a captaincy, with 5 months to go after the Henrik Stenson drama and seemingly became like this hero on the European side. Everyone didn't doubt for a second. So I think there's more to the captaincy than we think, just from like a psychological perspective, and it just becoming like a trickle down effect in the team room, I think.
Yeah, one of the things that just came to mind is you can make arguments all different ways with this, and it's such a subjective thing. It's you're making picks. It's just by nature subjective. If Keegan picked himself, there's a whole kind of premise of that's the only thing people would talk about.
Yeah. Yes.
And in a way that, he could play twice.
Yeah.
Like responsible for 2 points of a competition, a big competition, very insignificant, but also take all of the attention away from everybody else to where they feel free. Because in a way, by Keegan not picking himself, now there will be discourse, attention, and scrutiny on, in particular, I think it might extend all the way to Morikawa.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will. I don't think there's any world where you could leave him at home. I know he's played poorly. It just was not going to happen. But it extends to Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, and Sam Burns. Now are the people that they're those players. If any of them play bad, it's going to be like, well, Keegan Bradley should have been in this spot.
Yeah, I think the overriding theme here is that like it really could have gone one way or another. And if he had picked himself, in my opinion, and I've been saying this for a while, the risk like heavily outweighs the reward. And imagine if he sent himself out, that first afternoon because he was never going to play foursomes in the morning. And imagine the first session goes less than ideal for the Americans. And then in the afternoon, he loses his 4-ball match. Do you play yourself again tomorrow afternoon? Like the question, I think it would free up the other players, but it also might make them carry this additional weight that they don't need to have. And they might have to answer less questions. They might not be getting the attention that they would otherwise be getting, but there would be that subconscious element of, oh, there is a ton of pressure on our captain. We need to step up for him. And then the mind starts spiraling there. It's just way too much to think about when you're trying to perform in front of a crowd like that in a tournament that everyone who you talk to says is the most high pressure environment they'll ever play in.
Keegan's obviously the one that people will focus on as the person that should be on this team that isn't. Is there anybody else that you think had a really good case for a spot that didn't get one? Obviously, in terms of the points list, the selections went to 14, 15, 16 on the points list, as well as, Justin Thomas and Colin Morikawa were high up. Ben Griffin was high up on the points list. I think they were 7, 8, 9. But then, 10 through 12 were 10 through 13 were ignored.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it kind of points out that the point system is a little bit skewed right now, especially because it's based on money. So performing in certain tournaments over others, helps you rise in the rankings when maybe they shouldn't be that heavily weighted. But I mean, to me, I would have loved to see Chris Gotterup go on a little bit of an earlier run this season, or maybe even last, and be someone who was more in the conversation than he was, because he really snuck in there at the last second, winning the Scottish Open and then performing well at the British. And, every vibe that I get from him is that he would be great in an event like this, just because he kind of has that, like he doesn't look like he cares that much, kind of like a Brooks Koepka, where he has that smug kind of grin on his face at all times, and also just a bomber, has the Bethpage Black experience playing there in college. It would be a perfect fit, but then again, you can't make, like, a late run guy like that is not going to make a Ryder Cup team now, with the 2-year cycle, the kind of veterans being welcome back to the team no matter what, like a Morikawa. So I just think potentially the point system might need some revamping, because a guy like Maverick McNeely, like Brian Harman, they haven't done enough to be firmly in that conversation. That's why it was so easy for Keegan to skip over that section of the standings and go straight to a Cantlay and a Burns. So it just begs the question, like, does there need to be a little bit of a different approach to this?
I think, yeah, I think you make great points. All the Maverick McNeely, Brian Harman, Andrew Novak that got skipped over. Obviously, Keegan's in there as well. But that group of players did their damage a long time ago.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's kind of been they've kind of slid down and kind of just been there. And meanwhile, Cameron Young obviously had a great finish. I don't think anybody will. And Sam Burns had a really good finish, plus strong relationships. And Patrick Cantlay's been one of your best players. I agree with you. Like, one of the things that I'd love to see layered in a little bit, especially, Bethpage, they've talked so much about course fit with Bethpage. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing about Gotterup, is that we saw the last time the PGA was there that this golf course is effectively built for people that hit the ball very far and high. Yeah. That was like the resounding, quintessential perfect example is Jordan Spieth had a historically great putting week at Bethpage, one of the greatest weeks we've ever seen in a major championship on the greens, and he was like 9 or 10 shots back in third place.
Right.
Like just no chance of contending. One of the things I'd like to see, especially in this analytics era, and I think analytics have been such a big part of Ryder Cups, especially on the European side, but I'd like to see a little bit of a lens of like, how does this look with like course fit analysis. And because I think if you did that, there's all of a sudden, the Ryder Cup points, or the Ryder Cup list would look a lot different. Recent play and course fit, to me, are probably the two biggest things that you want. You want players that are playing well, and then you want players that fit the golf course.
Absolutely. And the players that are playing well, you want the course to suit their eye well. And there definitely is some kind of formula that the US team has used to figure this out, especially with figuring out the pairings, and looking at, which skills suit which holes the best, who's teeing off where, who's hitting the putts on which greens. But it's interesting because, yes, they have this whole, team behind the scenes that's doing all this stuff. They probably don't want to give it away, but it would make the lead up to Ryder Cup picks probably a lot clearer for people, and understanding why a guy like Maverick McNeely or a Brian Harman is pretty obvious that he just doesn't hit it far enough to succeed at a place like Bethpage Black. But it would be a lot more of a dynamic discussion that way, rather than just who's won the most money in what tournaments, what place are you coming in? You could have come in second place and been 8 strokes behind Scotty Scheffler. There's a lot of, there are so many factors that aren't necessarily accounted for by the current point system.
The point system I just at this point don't really have a use for it.
Right.
I guess it gives us like a nice thing to talk about all year, but I think the utility, particularly this year, has been kind of thrown out the window. Goddard, it's funny, he's 20. This is a perfect example. He's 20th on the points list.
Mm-hmm.
But when you factor in recent play, and I think like what you said, not all points are equal. Mm-hmm. His points for playing in the final group with Rory McIlroy and completely outplaying Europe's best player
on their soil.
Yeah, and on their soil,
there are a lot of external factors at play there. He was talking about being heckled all day, people trying to distract him, rooting for Rory the whole time, obviously. That's the kind of guy that I eventually want to see in a Ryder Cup team. For sure.
And what you said about the Koepka, he has immense confidence. And that the only way you beat Rory in a final round is with like a tremendous self-belief, obviously local and course fit is just off the charts. But this points to the points list. What really is it? If we're saying like outside of Keegan, the 20th guy on the points list probably has the best case.
We need to blow this thing up.
Yeah. You brought up pairings, analytics. What are a couple pairings that you look at and say like these would be some interesting pairings, or pairings you would expect to see?
Good question. I mean, a lot of the historical pairings have been, wiped out of the realm of possibility now because a guy like Spieth isn't there. Scotty and Burns has proven to not be exactly efficient. So, we saw it at the President's Cup, Scotty and Russell Henley. I expect to see that again for sure. I love that pairing personally. I just love that Henley can be kind of like Scotty's rock and like baseline to work off of, and he'll just put him in the fairway. He'll put him in the center of the green, and just make it easy for the number one player in the world to do what he is meant to do. I was also just thinking about who Bryson is going to play with. And this is a tricky one because, obviously like his asset for the team is his driving distance. And, a lot of the guys on the team can hit it far, but I'm trying to think of who would mesh with him personality wise. And it's kind of like come down to potentially like Ben Griffin and Bryson. I don't know why this like kind of makes sense to me. But the way that Ben Griffin played some of his final rounds where he made some of those like late charges and he was walking in putts and, doing the whole like showmanship Ben Griffin thing that came out of him, like kind of reminded me of mini Bryson vibes. And I can see them meshing also because Ben Griffin also feels like kind of the new kid around the block in the team room. And Bryson is clearly like a little bit of an outsider with the live situation. So I can see that being a potential experiment. But I think you nailed that. Yeah.
I think that's from what I've gathered, the general belief with Ben Griffin is that I think this came down to Keegan versus Ben
I
Griffin.
think so too. I think so
I
too.
think that was the decision, and I think one of the things that came out with the Ben Griffin case was the idea of, and I could be completely wrong with this, but the idea of like, well, who's going to play with Bryson,
Yeah.
and it being like all signs point to Ben Griffin,
Yeah.
and I think that they're both, Ben Griffin, active TikToker. I think they're
Yeah,
both in.
he
They've
knows how
got
to blog.
yeah, they've got some shared
So true.
interests here. I think this is a pairing. I think like I'm interested to see how much Bryson plays. Do they play him an alternate shot, or is he just going to be a best ball player?
The only problem with Ben Griffin is he plays a max fly golf ball. So like, is Bryson going to be able to work with that? Probably not. I'd put them in 4-ball together for sure.
I think the ball that Bryson's using is the same ball that Cam Young just won
is
with.
it?
So that if you were going to play him an alternate shot, obviously, we hear every major championship, whether we want to or not, we hear about Bryson's equipment setup.
Yeah.
So I imagine that is probably like a hurdle to him playing alternate shot is just the ball.
Yeah, for sure. I would also love to see, just for pure entertainment purposes, I don't even know if their games necessarily match up, or I think they do, is Morikawa and Cam Young, just from like two flushers together. Cam Young stripes it off the tee. Morikawa can carry him from an approach perspective, and they both are. Well, Morikawa is not putting the best right now, but Cam Young can pick him up where he needs to, and I think that would be an entertaining pairing for future.
I hadn't thought about that one. I like that because like where we've seen Morikawa thrive is that DJ Morikawa pairing was particularly a really
Great
strong
call.
pairing, and is Cam Young somewhat like a poor man's version of DJ in a way? Like you look at the game, the tee to green game, the immense length off the tee. I think that's like the thing for Morikawa is pairing him. And Henley, you hit the nail on the head with the Henley Scheffler thing. When you have the greatest iron player in the world, it is just about putting him in the fairway. Just giving him, because he hits his 5 irons as close as the best players in the world hit their 7 irons, and I think that's the thing. And then for Morikawa, giving Morikawa a chance to hit approach shots from somebody that hits it 320 plus yards is it's a way to amplify his iron acumen,
Absolutely. Another random one I can see is maybe a JJ Spawn and Harris English.
I was just looking at that.
I realized that, JJ, they both are pretty steady all around, but JJ is actually a really, really solid iron player as well. And Harris English is very straight off the tee. He kind of has that little squeezy cut that he can, just rely on off the tee. And I can see that working because Harris English has played on a Ryder Cup before. JJ Spawn's a total rookie. But they both seem to have that same like even keeled energy where they can probably balance each other out pretty well instead of sending a JJ Spawn out with someone who is like a veteran type of guy, like a JT. I would rather him be with someone who kind of just matches the same energy level instead of trying to have him be carried by like an energetic force like someone else.
On the Harris English subject, I think it's wild to consider this 2 years ago. Like if we were talking Ryder Cup 2 years ago, it's like who do you feel best about on the American team? I think Harris English is number 2 for me behind Scotty Scheffler.
Wow.
I think this is an honest question. How would you rank today the U.S. team in terms of how confident you are with their game going into Bethpage?
That's a good question, actually. I guess there are a few people we can rule out. I'm not confident in Colin Morikawa. I'm not confident in Xander Schauffele.
Cantlay's played well 1 week.
Cantlay has one good showing. Oh man.
Justin Thomas hasn't been good
confident
since the beginning of the year.
in Russell Henley.
So be Russell Henley and who else?
And you know what? I will put my confidence vote with Cam Young. I think he's going to ball out at Bethpage. And I think he's going to come out of his shell too, which I'm really excited about.
That, he wouldn't have to come very far out of the shell for us to feel like we got a lot out of him.
Exactly. Which is why it's going to be a nice surprise for everyone to see, this guy who barely even cracks a smile, to becoming, potentially a Ryder Cup legend at Bethpage Black, a place where he won as an amateur at the New York State Open, mind you.
So I would go Scotty Scheffler 1.
Okay.
Harris English 2. Cam Young 3.
Okay.
I don't like Russell Henley's course fit, but he's playing with Scotty Scheffler. So I guess I'll put him 4 because I know he's going to play a lot with the best player on the planet. And then I think I would go Bryson as my next guy. But I think it's a fascinating aspect of it.
I would put Bryson higher up just because I think, what he said at the Open? He goes, I'm going to bring a tsunami of people to Bethpage Black. And I don't think we can underestimate the crowd forces that will be around his pairings there, especially with the Trump factor as well. There's going to be so many layers to this Bryson energy on site that it will genuinely be a massive disadvantage to whoever that pairing plays against.
Friday.
Yeah.
You
should just stay in the city on Friday.
Honestly, I was thinking about when we might have to leave to get there, just and get through everything. Friday is going to be a madhouse.
That might be 3 a.m. wake up.
Yeah. I was thinking about that after that got announced, is just how, it's going to be a crazy day. I would, we've talked a little bit about pairings. I think a dream situation for this event is Bryson Rory. If we got part 3, Bryson Rory, I think the two are not huge fans of each other. And I think the idea of them squaring off in a high leverage Sunday singles match would be, on a golf course that fits both their kind of games very well, would be one of the dream scenarios of this event.
That would be must see TV. I could also, what about Scotty and Bryson playing together? That would be an electric first tee send off pairing.
It'd have to be best ball.
Yeah,
I don't think
it would have to be best ball. You're right. You can't do that. It just statistically doesn't make sense.
we did the Scotty Brooks pairing, just kind of.
That was an epic failure.
We've seen this though. They did remember at Hazeltine they did the Brooks DJ pairing, the super pairing. I think in the history of Ryder Cup, the Tiger Phil was a flop. I think the idea of using your best players, and I don't know what the analytics say about this, but pairing them together is kind of, there almost is so much expectation. One of the things I think that's it's freeing when you take someone today you put JJ Spawn with Scotty in his first match, right? And it's a best ball out first. JJ Spawn has to feel great with the idea of I don't have to do a lot. I'm playing with the best player on the planet. If I contribute a couple times, this is gravy.
You're really just so much confidence in JJ Spawn, Andy.
I actually sneaky. I think JJ Spawn might be 6 on my confidence meter. He's been. I thought him backing up the U.S. Open win with a really good performance at St. Jude at FedEx in Memphis.
Agreed.
Was a huge vote of confidence of, hey, this guy, he's it's got to be hard with his situation coming off of that win where it's a career achievement type situation, and you could see like just struggle with being that high, high profile of a player. But him getting into that, the thing about him is that he's steady, right?
Very steady. Yeah. I mean, that he's ranked 7th in strokes gained approach on the PGA Tour right now. Bethpage also, the greens are sneakily small, but they're not incredibly slopey greens. If I remember correctly, like it's pretty straightforward once you're on the green. And a guy like JJ Spawn can make putts. We've seen it, at the US Open. He's come down the stretch and been very clutch in other recent finishes. And I think you're right that he has absolutely nothing to lose in this Ryder Cup. Like if he goes out there and produces some highlights and contributes a little bit here and there, like he will be considered, someone who unexpectedly might really help the US team succeed there at Bethpage. I could see him and Rory like have a little bit of a dynamic too because of the players and the playoff. And there was that comment that Rory made to him at the Masters. Did you hear about after the par 3 contest, and JJ was like in a playoff or something, and Rory made some offhand comment to him about how he better choose the right club this time. And it was just, that is brutal. And I can see JJ coming in with a little fire under his belly,
I think the two biggest questions I have are, who does Justin Thomas play with? And what are we going to get out of Cantlay Schauffele, the pairing that's been the most effective Ryder Cup pairing for the U.S. or team competition pairing for the U.S. for the last 4 or 5 editions of these things?
Yeah, it's a huge question. I mean, JT's his weakness right now is driving. So I want to see him paired with someone who can, especially an alternate shot, who can get him in the fairway. I
don't know with the driver. I don't know if he's playable in alternate shot.
Yeah, potentially not. Yeah. Yeah. He just wakes up during these things. Like it's a different JT than PGA Tour JT in the Ryder Cup. So I'm like, I'm curious. I would love to ask one of these statistics guys, like, how do you factor in like an element to a player like that, where they just are a different person when it comes to Ryder Cups and President's Cups and match play?
I mean, it'd be like how do you apply? Do you only look at Brooks Koepka's major record for years? Like, do we even consider what he did at the CJ Cup? Yeah. I don't know if the CJ Cup was in Korea at the time Brooks Koepka was last on the PGA Tour. So, does he play well at the Byron Nelson? It should not be.
Did he warm up today? Like, I don't even know.
That's true. Those are one of the great Brooks things, was showing up like 30 minutes before a final pairing on Saturday at a major. All right, let's take a quick break to mention our partner, MobJack. That's MOBJAK. MobJack makes the belts that I've been wearing all summer. This has been truly a delight of a discovery this year for me, is the MobJack belts. I wear them in all different occasions, whether I'm casually going out to dinner with my wife or I am playing golf. These belts are fashionable. They are well-made belts. They are they're made by they're made by a half a dozen craftspeople. There are expert leather cutters, edge painters, and sewers. Every little detail, like including putting the colored stitch that holds the buckle in place, is done by a person, not a machine, who specializes in that aspect of belt construction. These belts are really great looking belts. I can't say that enough. They are every little detail is thought of, and these people that started MobJack have been experts in the belt industry for years. So check out their stuff. I have the Southampton that I really like, in particular the pattern. That's one that my wife picked out. If you're looking for a specific one, if you get, I like the navy one. It goes with like everything. You can wear it with jeans. You can wear it with so much stuff. Go to Mobjack, MOBJAK.com. Use the promo code FriedEgg for 15% off. That's FriedEgg, all one word, for 15% at Mobjack.com. Big thanks to Mobjack for really being a great partner and providing a great golf product. While we're on the subject of great golf products, we are having a Labor Day Pro Shop sale. So if you are interested in what we have going on there, check out the Pro Shop. We have a sale that will start today, and it goes through Labor Day in the shop. You can get all kinds of stuff. We have a fresh new set of hats. We have polos. We have all kinds of good stuff. If you're a FriedEgg Golf Club member, the sale extends to that. The only thing you can't get with the promo code Labor Day 15 is coffee and golf bags. So use Labor Day 15 to get 15% off in the Pro Shop. That's proshop.thefriedegg.com. And if you're looking for some new stuff, you might need some layers with fall around the corner. We got a lot of good stuff there. I was at our merch center the other day where we store all this stuff, and I had a hard time leaving without grabbing everything. So check it out at proshop.thefriedegg.com, and thank you for all the support. Let's get back to Gabby Herzig. We talked about the Ryder Cup's obviously going to be a huge discourse item the next 4 weeks. We got the Walker Cup next week, which I'm really excited about. But you were on site at Eastlake. Obviously, you cover the PGA Tour pretty tirelessly. You wrote a great piece about Tommy Fleetwood and his win there. What were your takeaways from Fleetwood and kind of his journey to becoming a PGA Tour player?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely skeptical of the Tommy pursuit, and I'll explain my reasoning. I felt very aware of it because the 2 Sundays that he dramatically lost those tournaments in Hartford and in Memphis, I was the one assigned to write the story live, and I was living and dying with every shot because I had to write a story as it was all happening. And I definitely in Hartford wrote an entire Tommy Fleetwood story that never got published. So in terms of my involvement in the subject, it's deep. I also, watching the way that Tommy Fleetwood played those final stretches, very much reminded me of some of the times that Rory McIlroy has gone out and lost tournaments or failed to go out and grab the tournament. And there were definitely instances where, you could see there were true lapses in his mental game, playing more defensively, switching clubs at the last second. So in my mind, I was just curious, is he, he's playing so well and he's getting himself to contention. The clear, missing piece here is just the ability to win and to go stick to your plan and do it. That being said, on Sunday at Eastlake, he did exhibit more confidence that those last 4 or 5 holes. He also was, gifted with Patrick Cantlay opening the tournament really poorly and Scottie Scheffler having zero control over his golf ball for once and still shooting 66 on Saturday.
Ridiculous route.
Ridiculous.
Given how he drove the ball, hit a ball in the water, hit a ball OB.
So what did he shoot in the final round? I don't remember his score, but
I think it might have been 68.
Yeah, 68. And he shot 66 on Saturday and was very grumpy in his post-round press conference. But I will say, there were factors that allowed Tommy Fleetwood to win his first PGA Tour event. 30-man field, no cut event, preferred lies. Yes, we have to mention all these things, but I do think I was proven wrong in that he was picking up information and learning from those past experiences. And I've had a really enlightening conversation on the 18th green, actually, with Finno, or Ian Finnis, his caddy, who told us that at the Travelers on the 18th hole, if you remember, he hit this really poor short iron shot that came up like 40 feet short of the pin. And he went on to 3-putt. And if he had 2-putted, it would have never been in the conversation. But Finno told us that they had a really bad conversation over that shot, and they were switching back and forth, and you could see it happening on TV. And Finno, his caddy, said that he was kicking himself for weeks over it because he could have stepped in that moment and made Tommy just commit to what they were thinking in the first place and not switching at the last second and doubting themselves. And he made this mental note to, and he referenced the podcast. I'm not sure what podcast it was, but the message was process before prize. So it was really, sticking to the game plan, not changing things at the last second. And he wrote that in his yardage book for Eastlake, and he kept reminding Tommy of it, and it paid off. That's what happens when you committing to shots. These players say it all the time, and we're like, what does that even mean? But this is what it means.
It is like golf. I think I said this on a pod, but it preys on insecurities,
yes,
and your discomfort and and indecision, and these types of thoughts are the things that kill you. And the idea of commitment and feel like it's everybody's probably felt this in their lives that's played golf is like you're standing over a 5-foot putt and you have like a little bit of doubt over what the line is. Like you've read it and you get over the putt and you feel like, I don't know about my read. Like your chances of making that putt are so much smaller than when you're like, this is a left edge putt. I'm certain of it and I'm hitting it on the left edge, whether you're right on your read or not. Like the fact that you have the indecision leads to a less committed stroke. And it's the same thing through the bag, especially like I think people bag sometimes on pins. It's like you look at some of these pins when you're on site and you're like, God, that's just like impossible to get to. And it's, 100%. I think that's probably one of the things this year that I'm just most amazed about with Scotty is people talk about his iron play and how good it is and how good his targets are. But to me, the thing that stands out is his commitment to the target. And because he's so committed to the target that he hits these irons that are just like to these ridiculous pins, pin high, 8 feet left, like right where everybody says they're going to hit it, but he never goes like the bail of that, like where the uncommitted miss is here, Never.
I've had so many cool conversations with Randy Smith and with Ted Scott about Scotty's mentality when it comes to attacking pins. And it's almost like, and people have talked about this before, but it's like playing the hole backwards. Like he'll be reading the green from the fairway. How can I feed the ball in from this direction or that direction, especially at Augusta? And I think that's one of the main reasons why he's so successful there. But yeah, it's so cool. He's like an artist, and Ted Scott has described him as a handyman with a toolbox, where he basically steps up to a shot, evaluates what tool needs to be used to basically solve the puzzle or problem in front of him. It's not about, where's the miss? Where am I bailing out? It's simply, how do I execute this shot? What is required to do that? And how do I do it? And he just does it every time. And it's this very simple mental strategy and mentality over a golf ball that a lot of people just can't achieve. And then when you're under the gun, that's when it goes away because it's hard for you in the first place. But with Scotty, he just has that baseline that can hold up under any level of pressure.
Yeah, he I think like one of the best, he gets a lot of talk about his personality, whether it's like really fascinating to the masses. I think like that's something that I've stumbled across with like a lot of my like friends who are just kind of casual golf fans, is they like to talk about, is he interesting or not? I think like for devoted golf fans, perhaps when he's most interesting for me is when he's like really breaking down what's in his head about a golf course.
Yes.
You see the mastery level of understanding how to tackle some of these places. It's just it's at a different level. And I think that understanding plus his supreme talent makes his ability to be committed at a level that other people just don't have. Your comparison with Tommy and Rory is an interesting one. I think something that they both share. Rory's, in the sense of what Rory's struggles obviously were the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy's was getting across the line at a regular event. Rory wins a lot of events. They just weren't majors for a long time. I think the thing that they also share is that you can see the tension and the weight on their face.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Where these are two.
Their face is sunken in a way, or they like Tommy looked miserable out there.
Yeah. And I think like this is, quantifiably, two of the more normal people.
Yes.
On the PGA Tour, in the sense of like, who would you want to go grab a beer with? Like two people at the top of that list where you could talk to them about a myriad of subjects of life.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think there's something to like these two people carry the weight the way that like normal human beings would carry the weight.
Yeah, they have that relatability factor because they do let us in. Tommy, in all of those post-round interviews that he definitely did not have to do, he would fully admit, like, yeah, things, did not go how I wanted them to there. Like, I let it overwhelm me, and trying to keep learning from every opportunity. And it's like, when will that learning actually happen? You have to go prove it. I thought actually the quote that stood out to be the most from after Eastlake was how he was speaking about resilience, and that, you can claim that you're resilient, but then you actually have to go prove that you are. And that's a great point. It makes it so much more difficult for these guys when, the repeated failures, it starts to build up this momentum and buzz around every time they're in contention. So Rory, every time he returned to the Masters, it was, what's he going to do this time? Is he going to get close? When he's in contention, that it went off the charts. And then for Tommy, it was every time he was close to a 54-hole lead, the more people start to pay attention. And that creates not only this like pressure on yourself that can come out performance wise, but it's like a pressure on your own self and your own ego, and not, being crushed on a national stage. It's something that can affect you like from a very human level as well. And I think that's where I see the comparisons between them, especially, is because, we see how much this means to them because they let us see it.
I mean, the relatability thing, what Tommy went through, everybody at some level can relate to the idea of disappointment and not meeting the moment. And I think that's where on Sunday we saw this outpouring of, LeBron James, Caitlin Clark, like just engaged. And I think like, if anything, like, I think like, there's been lots of chatter about the FedEx Cup playoffs. Like, this story is like, obviously kind of like these things, this built over 5-6 years. This is not a replicable thing. But what the playoffs being in this spot of sports dearth, and now we've got the ratings, this, most popular non-major of the year in terms of how many people tuned in, huge number for it. It does validate a little bit the move to getting this into August for the PGA Tour. It also kind of makes you scratch your head about the PGA just being like, yeah, sure, take our August date, because now they're in May at like peak sports conflicts with the NBA, the NHL, MLB, and you see this great date, and it makes you wonder, like, if the PGA Tour could crack this playoff thing,
it could be.
They have just a wonderful little spot in the sports calendar.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the fact that like those names were paying attention and just free promo for the PGA Tour is just amazing for them. But it wasn't, I think if there were starting strokes this year, that wouldn't have been the case. I think the fact that it was just a traditional stroke play shootout, the added benefit of having $10 million on the line for the winner definitely makes the stakes a little bit higher. It shows also the potential that just like regular 72-hole stroke play events have. as much as we crave these like alternate formats, especially how I was even excited about, the prospect of maybe match play in the playoffs and trying something new. But then you just remember that like the natural drama that can occur from just 4 days of golf with the best 30 players on the PGA Tour is going to produce excitement no matter what. And then, in the off chance you get something like Tommy Fleetwood occurring, that's a home run. But regardless, the baseline opportunities are pretty good there for the PGA Tour, especially in that time window, like you said, before football.
Yeah, I think you could do nothing except move it out of Atlanta and move it to, if you move this Denver or West, like
Anywhere.
just simply by doing that and bumping the time slot. Like if I know this is like the hipster thing to say, but if you did this at Chambers Bay and we're watching, it's a venue that is, Garrett Morrison made this point, and I think a million people have made this point. This is a venue that desperately wants high level golf at it.
Right.
And it's just like sitting there. It's like, okay, we could host this as a facility everybody can play, and we can host this in August. It's going to be clear there. It is going to be
prime time.
It's going to be on prime time, and there's nothing else on. We're the only show in town. It just, to me, like there's a way you could just elevate this event by 2 million people in terms of who tunes in, just simply by picking a different venue. And like, yeah, there are sponsor implications. You have Coke, you have Southern Company, all of these companies. But guess what? Like, the more popular the event is, the more sponsors are going to want to be a part of it wherever it is. Like, this is the way sports sponsorships work. Like, the more people that tune in, the more likely chance that you're going to have successful sponsorships. And I think like there's one thing you can't get on the tour about is like they've had really successful sports sponsorships. Like it's astounding how they've monetized the sport.
I think it would be cool to have like a tour championship rota.
Yeah.
and that's a way you can keep Atlanta involved. I don't mind having it played at East Lake like every 4 or 5 years.
It just shouldn't be in August there. Like,
yeah, I don't think, I think my perception of East Lake changed a little bit being there on site and watching like a final day there. Like 15 might be considered a stupid hole, but it does create drama.
It's an amazing hole for the end of the tournament.
I mean, Tommy said he was just happy to have found dry land. Like, that's pretty fun.
It would not be a fun 5-iron to hit there.
Not at all. I literally can't even imagine that.
Let's do a couple quick kind of wrap ups on the season.
Okay.
What was your favorite non-major tournament of the year?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think I'm skewed because of the ones that I actually attended, but I would say Pebble for me was incredible. I think it was just the perfect primer for the Rory season that we eventually had, and him winning at one of these cathedrals of golf ended up being so much more significant than we could have imagined. But then also, I really remember enjoying the final round of the Mexico Open with Brian Campbell and Aldrich Potgieter like dueling it out.
I love that you gave us like a golf sicko answer, and also just a very mainstream one here.
Yes.
Rory at Pebble.
I had to do both. I mean, I just remember like being fascinated by like Campbell and being, I think, the shortest hitter on the PGA Tour, and then Potgieter just launching it but spraying it all over the place and not being able to chip at all. And it was just like one of these things where you sit there and you're like, we cover the strangest sport.
Honestly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Brian Campbell year is like one of the strangest seasons. 2 wins, like very few made cuts outside of the 2 wins.
I know. I love it.
Like a weird tournament, like along the same lines as like you think about like Memorial, where you had Ben Griffin effectively on Saturday. It looked like he was just running away from everybody, and you're like, oh, maybe he's like the best player in the world right now. And then
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler ends up, just the way the swings of it. I don't think this was there's so many to choose from. Like, I don't think it was the most exciting event, but I thought like Ryan Fox at the Canadian was like a nice tournament. Him and Burns going back and forth.
That was good.
And it's like Ryan Fox, get this guy that's like kind of been passed over for President's Cups, has played all over the world, has like a fascinating backstory where he didn't play golf really until age 18. And, here's this guy that's been this world player, like finally getting his like big signature win on the PGA Tour in a way was, I've gotten to know Fox, and I'm obviously colored by that, but like he's a great, genuine human being, where like people don't realize this with like a guy like Ryan Fox, but like, like having his life settled is like
job security.
Yeah. This is a guy that's like undeniably been one of the 50 best players in the world for the last 5 years, and he's living effectively out of a suitcase for the first half of this year until he locked down the win at the opposite field event he won. He didn't know where he was going to be living next year, and he has a young family, like 2 young kids. Like, just the idea of like, I talked to him at the U.S. Open. He's like, yeah, we bought a house. Wow. It was like, we've been living in a rental, and like the idea of like putting down roots, we're going to live here for the next 2 or 3 years, is something that I don't think a lot of people consider with the professional golf life. But like how unsettling it can be being someone that played, this world schedule on the DP World Tour, and you come over and like you don't know if you're going to make it and stick on the PGA Tour.
Totally. And you're in a totally unfamiliar environment. Like we heard, I think Bob McIntyre speak last year about how tough it was to move to the States and like how unsettling it was to not have that same DP World Tour camaraderie. I think Ryan Fox has said the same thing. So it is like, in some respects, it's even more impressive what he's done, just knowing like how he really threw himself into this new world by just being full-time on the PGA Tour.
So we just threw out like 6 tournaments.
Yeah.
Who's your breakout player of 2025?
Oh, that's such a good one. I feel like we already went over it, but I think mine is going to be Goddard. Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see him just blossom even more as like a star. I just think he's a super real person. Like even, I have a loose connection of my roommate's boyfriend's friends are like friends with him from New Jersey. And just knowing that he's like a normal kid, he posted something last night on his Instagram story, like going out at the Jersey Shore. Like he just has this vibe where I think that he can get a lot of people on his side if he continues to open up a bit. I also watched him chip for like 20 minutes at Eastlake, and he works with this short game coach. His name's Gabe Golf on Instagram. Gabe Herzig. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't. I'm excited.
Okay, so I'm like really invested in like the short game coach like Instagram world. And
I think we need more figures than the chef and Mayo.
Yeah, this Gabe is one of them. He's extremely underrated, and he coaches Chris, and he was just hitting like nipper after nipper, like backspin from 20 yards away. And I highly recommend following Gabe Golf.
He works with Akshay too. He's going to get it.
Akshay.
He's going to get in with the TikTok generation, or he already is in with the TikTok
He's definitely in with them. He has a great Instagram presence. So
I'm going to follow him.
Highly recommend. Shout out to Gabe.
Mine's Ben Griffin. I don't think it's just like, this is out of nowhere. I think like what's amazing is you see so often players like break out and play for like three weeks really great. Yeah. What's been super impressive to me is like you're like, okay, he's gonna fizzle out. Like we're always gonna remember Ben Griffin month, and it just didn't happen. He just kept playing great golf.
Sure, yeah. At the U.S. Open, that was so impressive when he was really up there for a second. I thought we were going to see a Ben Griffin major.
Yeah, that would. I don't think the world's ready for that. I don't think TikTok's ready for it.
I know. He's going to have to up his vlog game for the Ryder Cup. There's going to be a lot of content.
Him and Bryson, maybe he can tap into Bryson's team. Bryson can
lend
co-create.
him some video editors for the week or something.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's you can show him the pathway to, being truly a great content creator in this era. Let's do best win of the year.
Oh, best win of the year. I mean, I don't think there's an argument for
PGA Tour.
PGA Tour win of the year. Gosh, I'm gonna go with Scotty winning by, I think it was 8 at the Byron Nelson. Just because I think I wrote that story like before he even teed off. And it was awesome. And like, I know that people say, this isn't interesting. And, he makes final rounds like just unwatchable. But I had to watch that tournament, and it was incredible to see him dominate like that. I just feel like that tournament, even above all of like the comebacks that he's had, or, crazy Sunday rounds from behind, like even at BMW, like seeing someone purely like just blow away the field like that is something special.
I think that win is so impressive because it's a golf course that like actively mutes the skills.
Yes.
Like if you talk to anybody in the analytics space, they're like that golf course should be hosting. It doesn't reward anything, it is. And for somebody to go out and just like,
I know.
I wonder if you asked, if you asked them like what was the end-to-end best performance of the year, the Open was obviously like incredible,
right?
Like I think that was like would be for me like the best performance of the year would be that Open, like where it's just like holy cow, this guy's on like but like for me that event, just winning that by that much at a golf course that like seemingly makes it impossible to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't even that he like figured it out better than everyone else that week. Like he simply just hit way better golf shots and made a lot more putts.
And people will say, "Oh, nobody was in the field." It's like still
doesn't matter to
the
me.
The level of golf is so high.
The fact that he even played in that, like, I just love it. I love Scotty. I love Scotty domination mode.
Sometimes you throw people a bone. PJ's in charge with making me not look stupid. So I'm gonna give my most impressive win to Cam Young for being Mr. 1000 of the tour. The golf, him and Joseph Labonte are golf's preeminent Cam Young fans. So I'm gonna give it to Cam Young, but I do think it's impressive. Like Cam Young's career has been like you talk about him and Fleetwood were like the two greatest players without a PGA Tour win, and you look at what Cam Young had done in majors, and it's like the guy, like, I sound like somebody trying to make a viral Instagram post, but people forget that Cam Young legitimately almost won the Cam Smith Open champion. Like he was right there, and he's been right there in a lot of majors, and I just doing it at Sedgefield wasn't a place that that would necessarily scream Cam Young, and just the improvement of the putting. Like this is a guy that I would not be surprised if he won a major championship next year.
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I also really loved how, defiantly Cam Young made his pitch for being on the Ryder Cup team at Eastlake this past weekend. He really just kind of stood up there and was like, yeah, I play really well in majors. Bethpage Black is a great course for me. I'm heating up right now. Like he just laid it all out there. And I really respected that from him. And I do agree that was a pretty impressive win, especially Mr. 1000. We can't forget about that.
We can't.
I'm just thinking back to the hat, the makeshift hat. PJ,
we can't.
With that.
On the shotgun start, Brendan, he's doing everything in his power to discredit the 1,000 wins, and this
Of
podcast
course he
will
is.
not lower, itself to that type
We
of
won't
thing.
go there. We won't go there.
The last one, I think this is a quick one. I don't think we have to probably talk about it much. Major of the year.
I mean, it's got to be the Masters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
I'm like remembering like just like the bodily sensations like that occurred like while watching that final round in person. Like it was truly like I don't think we'll experience anything like that, or I won't. Like maybe I wasn't there for Tiger in 2019, but like I don't know what else comes close to that in our next 10, 20 years of Masters.
everybody always talks about like the presence that the crowd has at the
Yes.
Masters because of the lack of phones.
Yes.
But I think like as I get further away from it, the more like what I remember is like how you've seemingly for all of Sunday felt I'm not saying we felt what Rory felt, but you felt a fraction of what he felt. And like there was before he teed off, he talked about how it was the most nervous he's ever been on a first
Yeah, he was
tee.
like about to throw up. Yeah.
And like I think like no matter who you were, like you don't really have a dog. Like I kind of just root for like exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like at this point, like all I care about is like, will this be fun to talk about?
Content game.
Yeah, but like you're standing on the first tee, you could feel like I felt it when you were standing at the range, watching them warm up putting. You could feel the tenseness of it, and then on that back nine, like the swings and emotion, where after he hit the tee shot on 12, you're like, it's over.
Yes, fully.
And then he dumps it in the water on 13. You're like, whoa!
What just
you like
happened?
this like sickening because like if you lost that, it's like becomes like, okay, is there any coming back from this?
Yeah, for sure. I watched the entire thing just by myself in the crowd, and like all you have is, obviously no phones. Like I had my notebook, and I was just, and I ended up writing about how like like the crowd was feeling it with Rory the whole time, because there were these moments where, I saw people like burying their faces in their hands, or like a green jacket was like sitting in the grandstand near me and just gets up and goes, I can't watch this anymore. Leaves the grandstand. Like there were just amazing moments that final round where you could tell how emotionally invested everyone was. And it was almost like you were like willing it to happen, while all those swings occurred. Like the first hole, going out and making double.
Yeah.
And then hitting it in the water on 13, missing the putt on 18 to win it outright. Like there were 3 separate times where he threw away that golf tournament. Like when is the last time in a major we've had that many complete swings to what the outcome that everyone wants to happen looks like it's going to be total heartbreak?
What you said about like I think this is probably like a little behind the scenes of our lives at the Masters, but like I went to a baseball game with 3 friends yesterday, and I was like very present during the game. Like, but because I was with 3 friends, we were just chatting.
Yeah.
And like I was like not as engaged in the game as if I was watching at home on TV, right?
Sure.
Like, but at the Masters, like the way our jobs work is like you just like at a normal major, you're on your phone a lot when you're out there. But at the Masters in particular, that one, because of like, the way the Sunday set up, it was Bryson or Rory. And then the way the Sunday went, it became just Rory until it wasn't. But like, because you're out, the way the Masters works for us is you're out by yourself with nothing.
No connection to the outside world. And no friends, usually, like no one with you.
Nobody with you. And you are just like if at a normal tournament we're inside the ropes and you're talking with like each other,
Sure.
like in the media. At the Masters, you're outside the ropes by yourself. You can't really stick with people. You don't. I don't really like to be with people because
No,
then
me
like you're
neither.
start to think like what other. But you're just by yourself with no connection, and the only thing you can think about is what's in front of you.
It's
And
amazing.
it's like it's just a wild. It's amazing. I like always like leave that week thinking about like how amazing of an experience it is to like truly be locked into one thing for a week, like because you get done with work and it's like I get done and it's like I just try and talk to my family for like 15 minutes and then like you're up the next morning and it's back to like just solo focus on one thing.
No, it's really cool. I feel like not encouraging other tournaments to ban us from inside the ropes, but like part of the reason I think I was even able to write that like final round story about Rory and like all the emotions was because I was not, inside the ropes and I was out there, experiencing it with everyone else. And I thought that was, that was really cool. And it's probably why you get a lot of great content out of the Masters versus other tournaments. It's the Masters and it will always be elevated in that way. But the way that we cover the tournament definitely impacts like how those articles and stories come out.
I'm like such a big believer in this, but like they constrain us the most.
Yeah.
But like sometimes like constraints are like the best thing for a creative process, like and creative work.
They force you to think outside the box. They literally, there's no other way to do it.
Yeah. It's like can be frustrating at times how little access you have in comparison. But then, what ends up if you kind of can grow to like appreciate the constraint, you can yield, the best stuff. And I think it's one of the many reasons like why it's the best, maybe the best sporting event in the world,
Yeah,
it's just a cool event too, because it's like the weekend with no phones or no cameras allows like you just like from like just like a human interest thing, you just see like celebrities just like intermingled with like regular people, and it's like something that just doesn't. Speaking of, who was just a row down from me at the baseball game yesterday?
Who?
Matt Kuchar.
Oh, I thought you were going to say someone so much cooler.
It was a guy that only golf fans would recognize.
I was thinking about my interaction with Harry Styles at the Masters, and then you go, guess who I was sitting next to at the Cubs game. So
I should have asked Kuchar. I should have asked him last night about Keegan, and I could have gotten a little tweet off that would have gone viral.
Perfect.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. The Masters is where you get cool like celebrity interactions in our job. But
I know I will. That's the best day of my life for sure.
Well, you're gonna have better days ahead.
I had a 3-minute long conversation with Harry Styles, Andy. Like I don't know what's better than that.
You'll probably get to play golf with him at some point.
I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. As always, pleasure. It's been amazing to read your work at The Athletic and then in the New York Times. It's been fun to watch your career kind of ascend through the years. And thank you, as always, for coming on the pod.
Thank you so much, Andy. I enjoyed it as always, and I'm happy to join whenever.
All right. Big thanks to listening to this podcast, for all the support. Next week, we will be diving into the Walker Cup with Jeff Shackelford and other guests. We're really excited for that event. We're excited for the Ryder Cup. The golf season is not over. I know we got football starting, but the Walker Cup is going to be absolute must-see TV. Along those lines, we did release a big video this week on Cypress Point. I would urge people to go check that out on our YouTube page. That was I've gotten a lot of complimentary notes and just an absolute honor to be able to do. So big thanks to Cypress Point for the opportunity, as well as the USGA, to make a video about the golf architecture of Cypress Point. So check that out on our YouTube page. And big thanks to PJ Clark, as always, for editing and producing this podcast.